more on this, let's bring in former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani. So first of all, just what's your reaction to this decision from Judge Juan Merchan?
I'm not surprised. The judge ruled that Trump is not subject to presidential immunity. We know the Supreme Court's opinion was very broad, and Trump argued that not only is he immune because he's a former president and president-elect, but evidence of official acts came into the trial with respect to communications with the communications director, Hope Hicks, and some of the tweets that Trump sent about Michael Cohen. Well, the judge set that aside, and he also ruled that it doesn't interfere on his abilities to be president. This is a more of a separation of powers or supremacy clause argument. But I think the judge did realize that there's really not much he could do. He's obviously not going to imprison a president-elect or even subject him to informal probation. Logistically, it wouldn't make any sense. So at worst, we're talking about a fine, but the judge wanted to really close the chapter on this. And we know that current president-elect is going to appeal, is going to go to the New York Appellate Panel or the Court of Appeal in the Supreme Court. He certainly wants to vacate this conviction. But now he is indeed a convicted felon because, of course, he's not fully a felon until that judgment of conviction is entered. So that's what we're dealing with here.
And sources tell us that Trump's legal team is expected to try and stop the January 10th sentencing, of course, just 10 days before his inauguration. Do you expect that to be successful?
I don't think so. Trump has had some success in the New York Supreme Court Appellate Division in a civil case. They've come in, they've changed the amount of the bond, for instance, he needed to post to appeal in the civil case. They dismissed his daughter, Ivanka Trump. So he has had some success there. But I think Judge Juan Merchan really set this up nicely to make that appeal less likely. And let's not forget, I mean, one of the things that the judge said is the only reason we're in this situation is Donald Trump himself asked for the sentencing to be put off until after the election. He didn't want the sentence to interfere with that presidential election in November. So the judge said, well, Mr. President, you can't have your cake and eat it too. The only reason we're in this position is because you asked for a delay. And the judge also wasn't going to really tolerate Trump and the defense attorneys' constant attack on the prosecution and the whole judicial process. And the judge even took issue with some of Trump's lawyers who are going to be appointed to very high-level positions in the Department of Justice, really right below the Attorney General, saying, you know, you're lawyers, you're here to uphold the rule of law, and the attacks that you made on the process, that's inappropriate and really shouldn't be tolerated.
And give us more detail on this unconditional discharge. So this would be a mark on Trump's record, but how rare is this? How lenient is this?
Well, it's lenient because he is a convicted felon and to not face any type of sentence. But obviously, we're really in uncharted legal waters here where you have someone who's not only a former president, but a president-elect who's being sentenced. Now, this has never happened before, but just taking the former president, you would never have a situation where Barack Obama, George Bush would be incarcerated. Imagine Secret Service agents in state or federal prison. Just really wouldn't make any sense logistically. Now you have someone who's even a president-elect. Obviously, he's going to be running the country for the next 4 years. So that's not someone that you can put on probation, even informal check-in with a probation officer. So I think the judge realizes that it doesn't make any sense to move forward with any type of punitive punishment. And I think he realized it even at the time of trial. Let's not forget that Donald Trump violated the gag order in this case willfully, intentionally, at least 10 times. And Judge Juan Merchan didn't take any punitive action then. He wasn't going to imprison a former president. So really the writing was on the wall that this was going to be some sort of slap on the wrist, maybe a fine, but ultimately it's going to end up with nothing, just that felony conviction.
Well, thank you for breaking all of that down for us, Neama Rahmani. Thank you.